Hello, my name is Timothy. I'm going to show you guys how to find the trig trigonometry functions of transformations. So let's start with our function right up top that is -2 cosine parentheses 4x minus pi divided by 4 cosine plus 2. Well, the first thing we want to do to be able to draw a graph is find our amplitude. The amplitude is the difference and is the absolute value of how many units it's going to go up and down. So, for instance, our amplitude is found in this sequence right here in the very beginning before the cosine, the sine, or the tangent. So in this case, it's -2. So what is our amplitude going to be? -2. Okay. And I'm going to soon label amplitude as just A. Now, we have period. Period is 2 pi over b, and that means that it's 2 pi towards our b value. B value is always found before the x. So if you look at this problem, we see the x right here, right before it's the 4. There's our b value, so it's going to be 4. Now, what we can do right here is simplify this down and divide it by 2 and 2, so that means that would equal pi over 2. So that is going to be our period that I'm going to represent with P, okay? Now, next thing we're going to do is find our horizontal shift. The horizontal shift is -c over b, but we already know what our b value is. Let's find out what our c value is. The c value is normally right after the x leading after a plus or minus sign. In this case, it's a minus sign. Therefore, the formula will change this negative pi over 4 into a positive pi over 4. So now we have pi over 4. Let me change to the blue marker. Pi over 4. And it's divided by, we already know our b value is 4. Okay, that's the same thing as just multiplying, because if you add 1 under, you want to flip the reciprocal for dividing radicals. So the best thing to do in this case is probably just, let's see, we're going to multiply this, because we're flipping the reciprocals. 4 over 1, now it's 1 over 4. That's going to equal pi over 8. Okay, and I'm going to represent this one by hs. Okay. Now, next thing we want to do is find our vertical shift. The vertical shift is found by our ending number, okay, out of the parentheses, and in this case, our vertical shift is 2. So, 2. There we go. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to erase this, like I said, so I can work out some more stuff with us. But you know what? First, let me fill this out. So, we know our amplitude is -2. So, I'm going to make this -2 right here. But it's the absolute value, so we're going to have +2 up front. Then that means that our period is, well, pi over 2, okay? That means that that's the whole wavelength is going to be pi over 2. We know our horizontal shift, okay, is pi over 8. That's going to be the first one right here, pi over 8. We can write that down right now. Our vertical shift is going to be 2, but we don't have to worry about that right now. So, next thing we know, we're going to erase this. Even though we don't really have to use amplitude anymore, I'll still use it. So we know our A is 2, right? So A equals 2. We know that our period equals pi over 2. So we're going to erase this out. So then our period is going to equal pi over 2, remember? So that means that now we have pi over 2. And now we're going to erase our horizontal shift that we know that is pi over 8. So our horizontal shift is pi over 8. So let's just write that down. Horizontal shift equals pi over 8. And then our vertical shift equals 2. Now we still need the vertical shift. So that's what we're going to do. So vertical shift equals pi equals 2. So vertical shift equals 2. Well, now that we have graphed all this, we want to find our ending phase, like points, okay? So how we're going to do that is easy. We're going to do pi, our period plus our horizontal shift. okay, and that's going to equal the ending period. So, you know what? Let's look at it, period. So we have pi over 2, and then we're plussing it with pi over 8, but we can't do that because the denominators are different. So what do? We multiply the 2 with 4 and 4, okay? And when we redo that, we're going to have 4 pi over 8. So now we have 4 pi, sorry about that, we're going to have 4 pi over 8, and now we can add that together to equal 5, 8, you see, because, well, 5 pi over 8, okay? So now since we have done that, let's move on. We know that this ending phase right here is going to equal 5 pi over 8, okay? Now, next thing we want to do, okay, is we want to find the next ones. So how do we do that? Well, let's do this really quick, okay? Okay. So, the first thing we want to do is find the fourth of the period. So if we do pi over 2 divided by 4, okay, so that means we're dividing by 4, but that's really 4 over 1 if you think about it. Flip the reciprocal, what are we going to have? We're going to have 1 over 4, right? So then that means that when we multiply this across, we're going to have pi over 8, correct? So that means that now we know pi over 8 is going to be the fourth, okay? And why is that important? Because this right here, I'm going to draw this in black, right here, has to be separated. So we have 1, okay, let me redraw this for you guys. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. And each of these sections, as you can see, is going to be pi over 8. So we have pi over 8, pi over 8, we have pi over 8, and we have pi over 8. So now you could tell that from this, we are going to actually have to add pi over 8, but to our horizontal shift, okay, to find the next point, okay? So next thing you know, we have pi over 8, right? But then we're plussing it with pi over 8, and that's going to equal 2 pi over 8, okay? So now we know our next point is 2 pi over 8, okay? Now, what can you do about this? You can simplify it, right? So let's look again. We have 2 pi over 8, and we could simplify it down with 2 and 2. And that's going to equal pi over 4, okay? So actually, our point right here is going to be pi over 4. But now, let's find what the next one is by using the sum of what we just got. So we got pi over 4, right? Well, you know what? Pi over 4, and we're going to be adding it with pi over 8. But that means we have to multiply this side by 2, and 2 to equal the denominator, and that's going to give us 2 pi over 8 plus pi over 8, and that's going to equal 3 pi over 8. So now we have 3 pi over 8, right? And now we can't simplify that, so we erase it. So next thing you know, we have 3 pi over 8. So what's the next thing we want to do? Well, you know what? 3 pi over 8. So 3 pi over 8, okay, plus pi over 8, right? Well, that's our fourth right there. Well, we look at this, we can just add it across. It's going to equal 4 pi over 8, right? But we can simplify that 4 pi over 8 with 4, correct? So 4 and 4. And that's going to equal pi over 2. So now we know our next one is pi over 2, right? Well, pi over 2, well, now we have no more room to graph, right? Because our ending point, well, you know what? Let's check if our ending point is correct. This is the way that you can check. We have pi over 2, correct? And now we're plussing it with pi over 8, but we have to multiply it by 4, and we have to multiply it by 4 to make the denominator the same. That means that this will now equal 4 pi over 8, and it's going to be plus pi over 8, and that's going to equal 5 pi over 8, and that does equal this. So as you see, we have done our math correctly and the correct way of doing it. So the next thing we're going to do is now graph, right? So next thing we want to do is graph it. Now, as you can see, we have a, cosine. This is cosine. That means it's not going to start at the origin, it's going to start off the origin. And since it was -2, so let's start at -2. So the thing we're going to do is we're going to phase shift it over from -2, boom, okay, and we're going to draw it up through this line, and it doesn't cross the 2 right there, so it comes back down, and it comes back out. Now, as you see, you're probably looking at this like, okay, well, as you can see, it stops at -2, -2, okay, but it's a vertical shift of +2. How do we do the vertical shift? Let me show you real quick. Well, it's gonna not pass this line right here of 4 because it's going up, but that means that it can't pass this line of 0 right here that we have at our origin because it's at -2 already. If we're going up 2, it cannot pass. So you know what? I like to draw a dot. I like to go up to 1, 2, right? Then we come over here and we draw a line right here, okay, and we go up to 1, 2. Well, now we go here and we draw a point, we go up to 1, 2. Well, now we go here, we draw a point, we go up to 1, 2. And now we go here, we draw a point, we go up to 1, 2. As you can see, it stops at the origin. So now this is correct. So we can start right here, we can go up, we can go down, and it makes the same exact graph. We just shifted it up too, and that is exactly how you will graph cosine. But sine is also the same in a way. It's just we will start at the origin right here, but in this case, because we shifted over, it would start here, but we're not just starting here. Now this looks like a sine more than a cosine now since we shifted it, but don't be confused by that. And that is how we find our sine and cosine, or just really perform cosine with transformations. Thank you for watching. My name is Timothy Cooke.